What's the most controversial thing about your heritage? What is the most contentious aspect of your ancestry, then? Hold on. Don't click away. Picture yourself at a family get-together, enjoying supper when all of a sudden, a relative reveals shocking information about your background. Yes, we've all had those awkward, funny, and perplexing situations at the same time. Your head spins in uncertainty. I didn't know getting cured would entail such a castration of free choice, followed by a moment of horror, fear of disgrace, then hilarious relief. Ridicule that nobody is immune from. So let's get started by unraveling the conflicting and vexing issues surrounding family history and heritage in our modern era, and be assured that by the conclusion of this post, your roots will be hairier than a yeti. The experience is bizarre enough to tickle your laugh muscle, and doubtful enough to infiltrate your perspective on the meaning of ancestry. After diving into the tangled web of family history and heritage, I promise you'll be questioning your roots, maybe even laughing at how absurd it can get. The romanticized heritage story? Check out the new multifunctional storage organizer in 2024. Have you ever heard the stories told by your ancestors about who you're related to and how you come from a line of warrior kings or noble persons or some great figures in history? Well, Grandma says we are related to famous historical figure, you know. When in reality, the odds are there is a much better chance that your ancestor was some random blacksmith or maybe a potato farmer, but whatever, it's the storybook that counts. But the secret question we're all terrified to ask is any of this true? Did your people come over on the Mayflower? Or are we all just victims of centuries of family melodrama? The controversial traditions you can't escape. Okay, whose family has that one ritual no one understands except us that you do every year and are like, wait, why are we doing this again? I'm talking holiday side dish to end all holiday side dishes, an unpopular dish that, despite its lack of people-pleasing appeal, you cannot not eat because it is that time of the year mandating its enjoyment. Or we've got something a little more scarring, like that weird coming-of-age third-grade doomsday parental test. You know, that one weird tribal tribulation that you're forced to undergo during the most specific period of your childhood on the hottest day of the year when everyone else outside is wearing bikinis. Why do we continue to pay lip service to these ridiculous practices when we all know that they're ridiculous? Are we afraid to seem like the first person to suggest that this year we'll order pizza and call it a day? Or perhaps it's that we are terrified that if we stop, we will lose touch with something ancestral, something primal. Heritage versus modern values, the clash, but this is where it gets good. It is the collision of heritage and contemporary values. Oil and water, right? Your ancestors might have been warriors or lived in a world in which some things were simply accepted. But today you find yourself faced with those same things that seem yikes. What do you do with a heritage that you're proud of, but that's also not necessarily in the best taste for modern life? Yeah, I guess, you know, you're proud, but you're also like, wow, yeah, that's not something that we necessarily should be celebrating right now. It's that like internal struggle where you're trying to respect the hell out of the past, but you're also going, okay, well, this is what we have, this is what we come from, and hopefully these are some baby steps. And let's be honest, our ancestors had some ideas that were let's just say shit-faced. The elephant in the room, skeletons in the closet, outdated, family secrets no one wants to admit to. No one mentions those super embarrassing bits of family lore until you're 3 glasses in at a family reunion, the dirty laundry. Don't just 1 or 2 branches of your family tree have something to hide. Or perhaps it's not so much that you have a secret skeleton, it's that you have a skeleton in your closet who also happens to be part of your family tree. Heritage is messy. When you discover that your own forebears did things that are, shall we say, given the present circumstances, not entirely complimentary, do you simply ignore it, paper it over, so to speak, or rewrite it? Do you start eyeing all visiting aunts and uncles with a side eye at Thanksgiving dinner? Cultural appropriation or not? And then there's another divisive issue. Where do you draw the line between having pride in your heritage and making a bit too much of it? Perhaps you know someone, a cousin maybe, who always turns up to every family party wearing something distinctly traditional to a party and blasting the latest chart toppers from the old country, even though you can't remember them ever leaving your hometown. It's all well and good to celebrate where you're from, but haven't we crossed into some kind of performative zone here? How much is heritage and how much isn't? Are we sometimes guilty of unduly compensating for a cultural dislocation? After all, that's what I fear, isn't it? That if you don't, well, you can't possibly be complete if you don't fully embrace it. But then when does it stop being about heritage and start being about trying too hard? DNA test results, a recipe for drama. Just that a little known, yet potentially even more important episode or part of heritage can be found in the most controversial and hilarious part of heritage in the 21st century, the explosion of DNA testing. Everybody is jumping on the ancestry train with often wildly surprising outcomes. Though you thought you were 100% Irish, you are actually part Scandinavian, with a West African slice to the pie and somehow related to Genghis Khan. In that split second, traditional family stories are discarded and new stories are born out of disagreements. Ever wonder why some family members disappear forever after those DNA tests? Pandora's box springs open. We all want our own little box of surprises, but we're reluctant to see what skeletons might fly out with them. We open the lid. What do we do with the results? Do we jump aboard the lush bushes of new heritage? Or do we smile graciously and file away the powers of surprise forensically in a dusty drawer? Heritage, love it or leave it. So the real question is, what do you do with the controversial parts of your inheritance? Do you take the rough with the smooth? Do you put an unblemished patina on it and hand it down to your descendants? Or do you never entirely escape the burden of the complicated parts of your inheritance? We're all asking these questions at some point. We love our heritage, but can we never entirely agree with everything in it? Ultimately, heritage is messy, it is personal, and yes, it is often at times pretty controversial, but can't that be a good thing? It isn't about having an ancestry with no warts, no blemishes, and no ugliness. It's about knowing where your people came from, about taking the good and the bad and choosing how to use it all as you form your own future. What about your heritage is most controversial? The most controversial thing about your heritage? Effects. OID. Why are some family traditions so strange? Because every family has its quirks, and often these traditions are passed down without much thought. Just a dash of habit and a sprinkle of nostalgia. How do I handle controversial parts of my heritage? Recognize them, learn from them, and decide what you want to carry forward. Heritage is personal, and it's okay to create your own path. What's the deal with DNA tests and unexpected results? They reveal the complexity of human ancestry, which can be surprising, fascinating, or downright shocking. Should I feel bad if I don't fully connect with my heritage? Not at all. Heritage is just one part of who you are. It's okay to embrace what resonates and let go of what doesn't. Can heritage change over time? In a way, yes. As we learn more and experience life, our understanding of heritage evolves. It's a mix of history, family stories, and personal choices.